Today. In today's webinar, we'll be talking about AI, data science, and we'll also be presenting a use case on how you can use IBM Watson Studio in order to gain insights from your data. Before we proceed, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Hashim Noor, and I'm a client technical specialist at IBM. My areas of focus are AI, blockchain, and web application development. Along with me today, I have my colleague Anam. Anam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Hashim. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anam, and I'm a developer advocate at IBM. And I'm really looking forward to this session. Hope you all like it.
Thank you so much. With that, let's get started. For today's webinar, we will be leveraging the IBM. Before we start, I just want to quickly go over a few important things on about Crowdcast. So on the bottom, you will see two panels, the chat panel and the Q&A panel. If at any point during the webinar you have any questions, you can post those questions in either of the two panels. To view the resources being used in today's webinar, you can click on the Get Started Here button. And if you'd like to stay up to date with our upcoming events, you can click on the follow button, which you'll be able to see on the top right-hand side of your window. Let's make this session an interactive one. We have posted a few poll questions, so if you guys could answer that, that would be great. And also, for those of you who have worked earlier, previously before data science with data science, and even for those of you who have not worked with data science, do post your experiences on the chat so we know what to sort of expect. And before we start, in today's webinar, we will be using the IBM Cloud platform. If you want to follow along the hands-on exercise, you will need to have IBM Cloud account to register or log into your IBM Cloud. You can use this link, which my colleague Anam will share on the chat. And if you want to follow along for the hands-on session, all the steps are documented here in the Github repository, which will also be shared on the chat. So let's go over the agenda for today. In today's webinar, we will talk about how you can collect, cleanse, and enhance your data. We'll also be talking about data science and its subsets, and then we'll move on to the problems that you'll encounter with data and how you can fix them. And finally, we will also be talking about the different techniques for data pre-processing. And then lastly, my colleague Anam will take you through the hands-on session, which is a code lab. So let's get started. So what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence basically refers to the ability of a computer system to act like a human being by performing tasks that you would normally associate with humans. So tasks like learning, self-correction, and so on. A common misconception about AI is that it's supposed to replace human beings. However, that's not exactly accurate. Actually, AI is supposed to augment or enhance our abilities as humans to allow us to perform even more complicated problems. Now, for the subsets of AI, starting from artificial intelligence, AI is basically a technique which enables machines to mimic human behavior. Basically, it's a broader concept of machines being able to carry out tasks that you would normally call smart. So, for example, a program with the ability to learn and reason like humans and solve tasks. But with this, we don't have any idea of how we will solve these issues. And this is where machine learning comes in. Machine learning is like the current application of AI, where the system improves their performance in a given task using statistical methods and the data given. And then further on, we have deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning, and it uses neural networks to analyze different factors, classify images, and so on. The whole idea behind neural networks was inspired by the structure of the human brain, and that is basically the concept of deep learning and how it works. And deep learning, you can say, is the next evolution of machine learning. So this is basically the hierarchy where AI is the technique to make intelligent machines. Then we have machine learning, which is the use of statistical methods and algorithms to solve problems and make predictions. And then lastly, we have deep learning that uses neural networks to classify images and speech recognition. And with that, let me go on and explain to you what data science is. Now, what is data science? Data science is the science of handling data and is an interdisciplinary area that uses statistical methods, machine learning algorithms, certain computer science techniques and algorithms such as uh, certain computer science techniques such as algorithms, data storage, web development, and all of this to tackle some business problems. So that's on a high level what data science is, and hopefully as we proceed on through this webinar, this definition will get clearer. All right, so now that we are aware of the differences in these fields, let's talk about the data science methodology and that we use to build models or applications. The data science methodology is an iterative process that guides us on the ideal approach to solving problems with data science. And the steps, they are mentioned here, they're as follows. We have from problem to approach, then we have requirements collection, understanding to preparation, modeling to evaluation, and deployment to feedback. Now, in the following slides, we will be looking at all of these terms in more detail, but on a high level, this is what the data science methodology looks like. So the first step we have from problem to approach. What does that mean? With this method, we are trying to get a better understanding of the problem. We are basically trying to answer the question of what the problem is that we are trying to solve. So in other words, we are basically just seeking clarification on the problem. Once we have a strong understanding, once the understanding of what the problem is established, we can then answer the questions of how we can use data to answer this question. And for that, we need to choose an analytical approach to identify what types of patterns we will be needing in order to address the question. We will need to decide whether we want to go for a predictive model, descriptive model, statistical analysis, or a classification model. And let me talk a little bit about what these different models are. So predictive model is used when the question is to determine the probabilities of an action. And then moving on to the descriptive model, it is used to show relationships and will look at clusters of similar activities and preferences. So basically, if you're trying to group people with a certain behavior, with common behaviors, we will be using descriptive models. Then we have statistical analysis, which means that this applies to a problem that requires a count or some quantitative data in order to be more detailed, to be analyzed more detailed in a more detailed sense. And then we have the classification model, which applies to problems that require a yes or no answer to predict the response. So this is on a high level what problem to approach actually refers to. Then we come to requirements to collection. Now, prior to the data collection and preparation stages, it is vital to define the data requirements for the decision tree classification, meaning that we need to identify the necessary data content, formats, and sources for initial data collection. And once that's done, the data requirements are revised and decisions are made whether more data is required or less data is required. And then once the data is collected, then data scientists have good idea of what they will be working with. Moving on, we have from understanding to preparation. The data understanding phase, it basically encompasses all the activities related to the construction of a data set. And you need to determine if if the data you collected is representative of the problem if the data that you collected is representative of the problem that is to be solved. So you will need descriptive statistics that will become variables in the model. And once you have an understanding of the data, then you'll come to the data preparation phase. And as the name suggests, data preparation phase, in this phase, we will address issues such as missing values, invalid values, removing duplicates, and formatting the data in a proper manner. The idea is to get the data in a state in which it is fit to be worked with. Another feature, another important aspect of data preparation is feature engineering. This is something that we need to, this is when we use our knowledge of the data to create features that we can then that we can then make the machine learning algorithms work with. Right, so this was understanding to preparation. The next thing we have is from modeling to evaluation. uh, in this phase, the data scientists have a good chance to develop a sample and determine if the sample is good enough or it needs to be changed. Models can either be descriptive or predictive. Now, what do both of these means? Basically, the descriptive models make predictions such as if a person did a certain kind of action, and if they did a certain action, then they are more likely to do a certain other action as well. So it's an if-then kind of condition. So, and then predictive models, they basically yield yes or no answers. So disease or no disease, true or false, something like that. And then we have the evaluation, which is performed during the model development and before the deployment. And for the evaluation phase, we have two techniques, which is the diagnostic measure phase, which ensures that the model is working as intended. And we also have the statistical significance testing, which ensures that data is properly handled and interpreted in the model. Lastly, we have deployment to feedback. And this comes in once once we are ready to deploy the model. Once the model is deployed, we are confident, and once the evaluation is done, we will deploy the model, and then we'll get the continuous feedback in order to ensure that it is performing as it's supposed to. So on a high level, these were the five methodologies in data science that we went over. And this chart, on which you'll be able to see on your screen, basically summarizes the entire data science methodology. Let me go over it really quickly. So the first step is to understand the business problem. And once we have a good idea of what the problem is that we are trying to solve, we gather the data. Before gathering the data, we sort of ascertain what kind of data we need in order to solve the problem, and then we will gather the data which we have determined is the most suitable to solve that problem. And then once we have that data, we go over and see if that data actually is representative of the problem that is supposed to be solved. If that is correct, then we move on to the data preparation phase, where we make sure that the data is in a presentable format and we can actually use it in order to make predictions or getting some insights. And once that's done, we actually develop the model. We see if the model is fit to be used. We deploy it, and then we continuously gather feedback to see if it's performing the way it's supposed to be performing or not. As you can see, this is an iterative process. So if at the data preparation phase, or even if at the data understanding phase, we determine that, okay, the data that we have collected is not representative of the problem that we are supposed to be solving, then we go back and we will do this phase again. So on a high level, this is the entire cycle of the data science methodology. Now, what are the types of data that we will most commonly be working with? Essentially, there are two kinds of data: a qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative data describes the object under consideration using a finite set of discrete classes. What that means is that this type of data can't be counted or measured easily using numbers and is therefore divided into categories. Gender of a person is a good example of the data of this data type. And then we have quantitative data, and in this data type, we try to quantify things and by considering numerical values that make it countable in nature. So, for example, the price of a cell phone or the ratings of a product, the frequency of the processor, and so on. So these are this is the definition on a high level of what qualitative and quantitative data is. Both of these data types are then divided into normi two subtypes. So for qualitative data, we have nominal data, and nominal data is basically the set of values that don't possess a natural ordering. So something like the color of a smartphone, right? This can be considered as nominal data as we cannot compare one color with other. And what I actually mean by this is that you cannot say, okay, red is better than black or blue is better than gray, and so on. Ordinal data, however, is something that does possess a natural ordering while maintaining their class of values. So if you're looking at clothing brands, for example, their size is small, medium, large, there is clearly a hierarchy and an ordering over there. So small is greater than medium, sorry, small is smaller than medium, and medium is smaller than large. So this is basically the difference between nominal and ordinal data. And then under quantitative data, we have discrete, and we also have continuous. So what is discrete? Discrete data is basically when numerical values fall under integers or whole numbers. So, for example, the number of speakers in a smartphone, or the number of cameras in a smartphone. This would come under discrete data. For continuous data, however, the values which are fractional numbers. So, for example, the frequency at which a cell phone operates, this would come under continuous data. So these are the types of data that you will be working with. Data can also be divided into structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. And as the name suggests, so if the data that we have is already in a tabular format, be it in CSV files or Excel files, then basically it's ready to be worked with. We would classify it as structured. However, if it requires a little bit of processing, then so something like that of a Word file, we would classify that as semi-structured. However, if it's in something like MP3 or JPG format, which requires a lot of processing, then that would be unstructured data. So this was basically the sort of the different kind of formats in which you can have data. Now, when speaking about data science, it is vital to note some of the most commonly present problems with data. And this is what we'll be talking about in the next few slides. So one of the main issue with data is to get the right data, basically. And for this to be avoided, it's really important that you understand the problem and understand the business goals. Another challenge that can be present in your data is that your data exists in different sources and comes in a variety of sources, which leads to another issue that because they all come from a different source, they might be in different formats and databases such as CSVs, or they could be unstructured completely. And because of that, then you'll have to prepare your data and convert them into a format which is actually in a format which is fit to be used. So this is a challenge that comes with getting the data and collecting it and actually having it in a form which is presentable. The next challenge is the completeness and the quality of the data, right? So before you start working with data, you need to ensure that are there any missing values? Is the data actually representative of the problem that is to be solved? Are there any outliers? Are there any missing values? And so on, right? So this is also one of the things that needs to be looked at. And then we have feature engineering. We already spoke about this, and this is when you will use your knowledge of the data to create certain features which will then be used within the machine learning algorithm. So an example of this is if you have a data science application where in order to, and you're using it to determine how much, whether a person's loan request should be approved or not. And if there is a field in that data called salary of person A, and the other field is salary of person B, you can, given your knowledge of the data set, you can actually create another field, another column, which combines those two values. So this is on a very high level, a very basic example of what feature engineering means. And then we have data pre-processing, which means converting or mapping data from one raw format to another in order to analyze it further. It can also be called data wrangling or data cleaning. And some of the techniques of data pre-processing are that go into data pre-processing are handling missing values, formatting data, data normalization, and data binning. And we will be looking at that in the next few slides. So handling uh, now, so in order to deal with missing data, this could simply be empty values or null values, and there are multiple ways in which you can deal with them. So number one, you could go to the source and actually check if you can retrieve those values from the source. If that can't be done, then perhaps you can look into dropping that variable or dropping that entry completely from your data set. uh, if that cannot be done, then perhaps replacing it with another value, which might be an average value, or replace it with a value that is frequently repeated. Or perhaps you will determine that this value is not that important, so we'll just leave it at as missing. So these are some of the ways in which you can deal with missing data in your data set. The other step in data pre-processing is data formatting, which usually means that since you will be collecting data from different sources, they might be in different formats, and in order to make them consistent, you need to format it in a way which is which in which you can actually work with it, uh, and make it, and that it's more presentable. Then we have data normalization, which means bringing the data to a similar range for more useful comparison. Now, to explain this further, I would want you to consider a data set containing two features: age and income. Now, the values of age will most commonly range from 0 to 100, while the income could range from 0 to 20,000 or even higher. So as you'll note here, that the income is almost 1,000 times larger than the age, and which and so these two features have very different ranges. So when we do further analysis, like linear regression, for example, the attribute in the income attribute will intrinsically influence the result more, right? Because it has more weightage, because it's a higher value. So in a way it biases the linear regression model. So in order to avoid this, we can normalize these two values into values that range from 0 to 1, right? So an example of this is shown on the screen, where the value 20 is normalized to 0.2 and income is normalized to 0.2, and with 40 is normalized to 0.4, and this is normalized to 1. So it again, you do some processing on the data to make sure that you remove that bias which can come from one value being higher than the other. And finally, we have data binning, which means creating categories from a set of numerical values, which in order to do some useful comparisons, basically. Sometimes binning can improve the accuracy of the predictive models, and it can also, and you can also use binning to group a set of numerical values into smaller number of bins to have a better understanding of the data distribution. So you can use binning to categorize price, for example, into 3 different bins, such as low price, medium price, high price, and then you can visualize it accordingly to get an insight from the data and get an idea of the data distribution. And turning these categorical values into numerical values such helps us find stats such as mean, median, mode, and the upper and lower quartiles, and so on. And that basically gives us some sort of insight or overview of the data. So up till now, we had been talking about the life cycle of data, and the different techniques that can the different methods that are implemented in the data science life cycle, such as the cleaning of the data, making it presentable, developing the model, and so on and so forth. The next step is to move on to the hands-on. Before that, I just want to have this slide on the screen quickly, which shows the tools that data scientists commonly work with. So you have some data stores such as SQL, MongoDB, Hadoop. You have some frameworks that you can use, such as Python, R, Jupyter Notebooks, and so on. And then you have NVIDIA, Spark, which are basically machine learning tools. So yeah, that on a high level, that was the theoretical aspect of data science and how you can collect and how it works from end to end. And now my colleague Anam will be taking over, and she'll take you through the codelab, where you learn how you can use IBM Watson Studio in order to get more insights from your data. So over to you, Anam.
Thank you so much, Hashim. Thank you for the presentation. And once again, welcome everybody. I will be sharing my screen now. And the first thing I want to show is the GitHub repository that we have. So in the GitHub repository, if you click on the green button below the screen that says Workshop Resources, you will be taken to this page over here, which is the GitHub repository. Let me just go to the main page. Okay, so this is the main page that you will be taken to for the GitHub repository. And over here, you will find the dataset that we are using today. So under this folder, you will find the dataset. And in the README, you will find all the links for this workshop for today. Please use this link over here to log in or sign up to IBM Cloud account. One thing I really want to emphasize right now is if you have already been following with us on the previous workshops and you have the services created on your Lite account, go ahead and use those services. Don't create new ones, because on your Lite plan, you are only eligible for one Lite service. But when you're logging into IBM Cloud account, please use this link over here to log into IBM Cloud account and use your previously created services. If you are creating a new one, I will show you how to do that. And for the slides, you can visit this link here. Workshop is being recorded and will be available on the same link that you are watching right now on Crowdcast. To fill up the survey, you can go to this link over here at any point of the webinar. You can fill up the survey and let us know your feedback. Now, this is over here we have the introduction, the prerequisites, and how you can sign up to IBM Cloud account. I hope everybody is done. If you are done, just put a yes in the chat, or in the poll questions. We have a question if you have already logged into your IBM Cloud account. So just give a yes over there. And now we have each and every step mentioned over here. So in case anybody is lagging behind, you can always come back to this repository and look at the steps. I will be doing it very slowly so everybody can be on the same page. So this is it. and let's get started with our IBM Cloud account. Now, if you log in to your IBM Cloud account, if everybody has logged in, just give a quick yes in the chat, please. So I know we can continue. Okay, I do see a few yeses, so I think we can go ahead. Now, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to create cloud object storage in which we will be storing our data sets. So just search for object storage here. Okay, so once you search for object storage, right here, you will see under catalog results, you will find object storage. So click on that. Okay, now click on the light plan and scroll down, give your service a name, or you can leave it as it is. That's totally fine. That's up to you. And click on create. So because I already have my services created, I will not be creating another one. But just make sure you select the light plan, give your service a name, and click on create. Once you're done with this, just put step 1 in the chat so I know everybody is done creating their services, their cloud object storage service, and then we can go ahead. Okay, so let me repeat that again. In the search menu, if you enter object storage, okay, search for object storage. And over here in the catalog results, you should find object storage. Again, if you have object storage created, do not create another one. Use the same one, okay? So click on object storage. It will take you to this page here. Select the light plan and give your service a name. You can give it any name and just click on create, or leave it as the default one, that's also fine, and click on create. Once you're done with this, just put step 1 in the chat so I know everybody is on the same page and we can move ahead. So just put step 1 in the chat and I can continue then. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to be doing is creating Watson Studio. Okay, so now search for Watson Studio. Once you search for Watson Studio, you will find Watson Studio in the catalog results. Click on that. And you will land up on this page right here. So over here, I prefer to use the region as Dallas, which is US South. So select that. Click on Light Plan and give your service a name and click on Create. Once you're done with this, please put step 2 in the chat. So search for Watson Studio. Select the region as Dallas. Give your service a name and click on create. Once you're done with this, please put step 2 in the chat so I know everybody's on the same page. Okay, I do see one person is done. If you can get some more step 2 in the chat, just put step 2 so we can continue. So the first thing we did is create object storage. So we searched for object storage. We selected the light plan, gave a service a name, and clicked on create. The second service we created is Watson Studio. We search for Watson Studio, select the region as Dallas, light plan, give your service a name, and click on create. So if you're done with these 2 steps, just put step 2 in the chat so I can continue. Now, once your service will be created, you will see this page right here. So just click on get started. Okay. So Segan, can you please, if I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, I'm sorry. Can you please tell us what your error is? And please use this link to log in to IBM Cloud account. Can you please refresh and see if it's working, or try to use Google Chrome or Firefox as your browsers? Okay, so just let me know if you're done. And so now with everyone who has already completed step 2, we can do and go ahead and click on create a project. So under work, so first thing one thing I want to mention is, if over here anybody sees Watson Studio, or for some people if it's cloud, IBM Cloud Pack for Data, don't worry, it's the same. Watson Studio is just going through a rebranding, which is why some people see Watson Studio and some people see IBM Cloud Pack for Data, but there's nothing to worry. It's the same. Now, under work with data, you will see create a project. Click on create a project. And after you click on create a project, we will be creating an empty project. So click on create an empty project. Now we're going to give this a name. So give this a name. Okay. And over here, when you click on the, if you have any problems, please let us know in the chat what problem you're having, so we can try to see if we can solve that issue. Now, if you click on the drop-down menu, you will find the object storage that you created earlier. So click on that. So you can always come back to the repository over here and see what step you have missed. So we created object storage, we gave it a name, and then we created the object storage. Next, we created IBM Cloud Watson Studio. And we selected the region as Dallas and gave a service a name, and then we created create. So we clicked on create. Next we have is Watson Studio project. So once your project is, your service is created, it will take you to the page with the button that says get started. So click on that. It will take you to the new page of which is something like this. Now in this page, you can click on create a project. So once you click on create a project, it will take you to this page. So on this page, you can click on create an empty project. You can see everything is mentioned over here step by step. So you can click on create an empty project. Once your empty project loads up, you will see, you will give your project a name, and then you will associate the cloud object storage that you created earlier. So on the drop down list, if you click on the drop down list, you will find your object storage mentioned there. Just click on that and click on create. So that's what we did right here. So over here you can see my object storage that I have created earlier. I gave it a name, and now I can click on create. Now, once you create the project, this is the overview page of your project that you have. In the overview section, you will have the description if you mentioned and the date you created the project, your how much data you have used from your object storage, and how many people are collaborating on this project. All of that will be mentioned over here. If you have any README, and your recent activities will be here. Now in the assets tab, you will have your data sets, you will have your notebooks. Whenever you create all these services, you will find them listed over here. So once you upload a data set, you will find the data set right here. You will find your Jupyter notebooks, Spark notebooks, whatever environment you're using. That will be here. Your AutoDF projects will be here. Deep learning, or whatever experiments you're doing will be listed over here. In the environment section, if you are using notebooks, you will need an environment set up. So you can either use the default environment that has been defined for you, or you can create a new environment definition as per your need. Next, we have jobs tab. Now in the jobs tab, you can actually create a few jobs once you have the projects, and you can automate those jobs to run at a specific time in a specific day, and all of that. So that is automated for you. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about running a job at a certain time. If you put those jobs down over here, they will do it automatically for you. In the access control, you can actually have different services associated to your project, or you can have different collaborators working on this project. Now, if you are working in a team, you can add different collaborators right here, give them different access if you want. Now, because this is my project, I have the admin right. If there is another person that I want to work with, I can either give them a viewer right, or an editor right, or even an admin right. Now, in the admin right, they have the ability to basically even delete the project to change anything in the project, even delete it. In the editor, they can only make changes to the project, but they don't have full access to the project. They will not be able to delete it. Next, in the viewer, they can only view the project and see what's happening, but they will not be able to edit it. In the settings page, you will find the name of the project, description, again, your object storage, you can manage that from here. And in the associated services, you can associate different services, and you can also integrate your notebooks or this project to your GitHub repository. Now, in the associate service section, we're going to, if you see on your right-hand side, you will see the service the button that says Add Service. It's a drop-down. Just click on that. and we're going to click on Watson. So in the settings tab, under associated services section on the right hand side, you will see add services drop down, and in the drop down select Watson. Now, if this is your first time, you will not have any services created. So what you will do is click on, and if you have a machine learning service created, you can use that. For people who are following along for the first time, you can click on new service. So once you click on new service, scroll down to machine learning. So click on machine learning. Now, an important thing over here is to make sure the region that you selected for Watson Studio is the same as your machine learning. It's fine, Nader, no problem. If you have not used IBM, you can follow along over here. Okay, let me just repeat that if it's too complicated. So in the settings tab when you create the project, in the settings tab, scroll down to associated services and click on the add service button right here on the right hand side. Click on Watson, and in the page that loads up for you, you will find the blue button that says new service. Okay, so click on new service, and if you see right here, you will see machine learning, or if you don't see it, just scroll down and you will see machine learning. So click on machine learning. Now make sure that the region is the same as the Watson Studio region that you chose. For me, I did choose Dallas, so I'm leaving it as it is. And in the plans, make sure to select the light plan. Scroll down, and you can give your service a name and click on create. Okay. So I already have a service created, which I will be using. Okay, so here, if I select this, you see now, right now, it's not associated. So if I scroll back up, you will find that one item is selected and associate service button. So click on associate. You can always click, you can always click on the workshop resources button down below on the page. It will take you to the GitHub repository where we have the steps mentioned, each and every step is mentioned. So you can just follow along with that. And once you are on the same page, you can let us know in the chat and we can continue. So now when you click on the X button, you will see machine learning, machine learning instance associated. So if you're done with this, just put step 4 in the chat. So you can see over here, all the steps are mentioned, very easy and very easy to follow along. In each and every detail is mentioned here with screenshots, so it should be very easy for you to follow along. Now you can follow from here if you need to. Okay, so now the next thing I see, we have step 4. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to associate our Cognos dashboard. So again, in the associated services section, click on that drop down menu which now says Watson, and you will see dashboard. So click on dashboard. So once you are done with the machine learning, this over here now says Watson. Just click on the drop down menu on the right and you will find dashboard. Click on dashboard. If this is your, again, if you have a service created, use the same one. If not, click on new service and click on IBM Cognos Dashboard Embedded. Again, region should be the same as Watson Studio, which is Dallas for me, and light plan, give your service a name, and click on create. All right. And once that is done, you should find your service listed over here. So if I click on my service, again, I have to click on associate service. And now you can see it's associated. So I can go ahead and close this. So now we have 2 services that we associated with this project. If you're done with this step, mention 5 in the chat. I'll give everybody a minute to be on the same page. All right, great. We have a 5. So once you're done with associating your dashboard, please put a 5 in the chat. Okay. Now next we have is the assets section. Once you click on assets, now from the GitHub repository, if you see on top, let me scroll very fast. In the dataset section, you will find the dataset that we're going to be uploading, which is the customer churn. Now you can actually click either clone this repository or just download the zip file and unzip it to find the dataset. That's really up to you, whatever you want to do. You can either clone it using this link, which is git clone, and then paste this link and hit enter on your terminal, or just download the zip, because this is the only file that you need. So, and you will find once you download it, you can unzip and find the CSV file. Now back in IBM Cloud account, I'm going to upload the data set that I have, which is the customer churn data set. Now customer churn is basically, we're trying to see over here how many people, how many customers are going to drop out of the services that we have, and how can we so basically, once you have an idea of how many people can drop, you can try to figure that out and stop that from happening. Just give me a minute. Okay. So now we have the customer churn data set. Once you're done with this, put 6 in the chat. If you have uploaded the customer churn data set, please put 6 in the chat. Okay, so now we can go ahead and create visualizations, right? So let me just show you this preview. Now, when you click on, once you preview the data, this is what your data is going to look like. Just a minute. So this is what our data looks like. We have account length, we have area code, phone number, international plan, and voicemail, and all of this data that we have. If you click on the profile tab, now the profile tab is basically, it gives you profiling information that shows the distribution of the values for numerical features. It also shows the maximum, minimum, mean, and standard deviation for the features. Now to create a profile, click on Create Profile. And this will create a profile. Now this might take a few minutes to actually create the profile, but and we'll come back to this later. But now we're going to move ahead and click on and create our dashboard. So just click on the project name right here. For me, I have named it Gain Hidden Insight. So if I click on that, uh, Gain Hidden Insight, the project, it will take you back to the Assets tab, and on top you will see Add to Project button. The blue button that says Add to Project, you can click on that. Okay, so if I click on Add to Project, my internet has been really slow today. And in the dashboard. So now over here you can create data, you can connect your different data together, you can create a connection, you can create auto AI experiments, you can also use Jupyter notebooks, and you can click on dashboard. So you can click on dashboard. Now that I can understand this is your first time using IBM Cloud account, which is totally fine, but actually we are also restricted on time. So you can always come back and watch this recording later as per your need. You can play and pause as per you need it. But we also need to finish this on time. So I'm really sorry. Or you can always get back to us and we can help you out. Um, okay, so now we're going to give it a name. So since we are using the customer churn data set, we can click on, I'm just going to name it customer churn. And under Cognos Dashboard, and this over here in the drop down list, you will find your service that we associated, the dashboard service that we associated. Click on that and click on create. So once you click on add to project, click on dashboard, give your dashboard a name, associate your service that we created, and click on create. We also have the GitHub repository for your needs, so you can always come back to the GitHub repository, watch the screenshots, follow the steps along, and it will be really easy to follow along. It's a very simple repository to follow along. So in the tab template, you can choose in the layout, you can either choose tabbed or infographic. For now, we're going to choose tabbed, and then in the tab, we're going to use the freeform template. So we can design it however we want and click on OK. Now to create visualizations really easily, we can and to have a drag and drop capability, we need to connect. Uh, we need to create a connection. So if you click either on select a source or this button right here, This will show you the different data sets that you have. For us, we only have one data set uploaded. So you can click on that. And once you're done with adding the connection, which is this part, just put step 9 in the chat and select. So now we have successfully added the data set. And if you click on these two dots right here, these two dashes here, if you click on that, you will see the data set that we uploaded earlier. So if you're done with this, put step 9 in the chat. Okay, so now you can actually, from here, you can also you can view and change the properties of the column. So if you just simply click over here, you can see these 3 dots, right, on every column that we had. If you click on these 3 dots, you will see properties. So now over here, it will display your different usage, and in the usage you can use attribute, identifier, or measure. And in the aggregate you can select different functions such as count distinct, count, maximum, minimum, total. And you can change the properties based on your needs, but I'm leaving them as they are. Now to create a visualization, it's very simple. In the three areas right here, these diagrams right here, click on the second one, which is visualizations. If you hover over it, it will give you the tooltip, which is visualizations. So once you click on visualizations, you can see there are many graphs and charts that you can use. For the first one, we're going to be using the pie. So I'm going to drop the pie on the screen. Okay, so now once we put the pie on the screen, you can see that it actually changes back to the data columns. If it doesn't, just click on the 0100 button right here and it should come back here. Now in the first pie chart, we're going to drag the column churn onto the segments property of the pie chart. Okay, so churn is basically the rate at which the customers are going to change or drop out of the services. So over here in the segments section, I'm going to drop churn. This will give us a value of how many people are more likely to drop out of the services and how many will not. And also in the size section, I'm going to put churn. So if I put churn here as well, now you can see a chart was created automatically. Over here, we have 483 people that have the value true of churn. So that means this section right here is most likely going to drop out of the services, right? So now, so the pie chart is created. You can expand it if you need, or you can move it around, right? And you can give it a title. So you can give your pie chart a title. If you see right here, edit the title, you can click on this and you can give it a title. Okay, so this is one visualization that we created. Now, similarly, you can create a couple more. The next one that we're going to do is a stacked column. So right here, stacked column, just drag and drop that onto the page. And over here, what we're going to do is in the fields, in the bars, we're going to put state in the bar. So state is right here. So we're going to put state in here. So just drag and drop. So you can see over here. And now in the length part of it, we're going to put churn. So again, drag and drop churn to the length section, to the length tab over here. And okay, so now we also need to draw churn in the color section. Okay, so that we have a different color. We're going to drop it in the color section as well. And there we have it. So now you can see the figures for this, and you can also view it in the table right here. So you can see the different states and what the churn is going to be. So in the AK, there's going to be 49 false, but 3 true. And so this will give you an idea of which state has more churn rate, which state has more, which state doesn't have much more. And similarly, we can create another pie chart for the distribution of the international plans, right? So you can actually play around with this and see what you like and what your data is about and how you want to present it. And you can change the fields from here. Choose the graphs that you like, which you think might be best suited for your data set. But for now, we are using the customer churn, and we're trying to see we're just trying to see which state has more churn rate, which state, and how possible is it for the international plans to churn as well. So how many international plans can drop the telecommunication company that they are using. Now in this chart, in this bar, we're trying to see how many international plans. Okay, what's happening? Okay. Now in this one, we're going to play around with the international plans. So we can just drop international plan in the segments. And we can also drop international plan in the size of it. Okay. And there you have it. So we have international plans. The people who can actually drop out of their plan is 323, and 3,000 people will not drop out of their plan. So this is this is how you can actually build dashboards. And now you can notice that when you move visualizations on the dashboard using the widget command locating on the top visualization, the dashboards are actually dynamic and they support exploration of the data using filters. Now, if you see over here in the international plan, now the slice over here that says yes, if I click on this, the whole dashboard is going to change accordingly. Did you see that? Let me just change it. Okay. So now you can see how it changed the values of this graph as well as this graph, right? So now the left has increased significantly, and this tells you that the clients on the international plan are more likely to churn than the clients that are not on international plan. So basically, the international clients, the people on international plan can actually quit as compared to the people who are not using it. Now we've applied the filter. If you want to remove the filter, you can either click on this filter section right here and click on X, or just click on this slice back again, and the graph will move back to normal. Okay. So again, now we have the graph that we started with, right? Now, moving on to the data preparation and transformation using Data Refinery. Now, data preparation covers all activities needed to construct the final data set that is fed into the machine learning service. And data preparation tasks are likely to be performed multiple times and not in any prescribed order. Basically, So now the tasks that they can include table, record, and attribute selection, as well as transformation and cleansing of data for the modeling tools. And this can involve turning categorical features into numerical ones, normalizing the features, and removing columns not relevant to the for the prediction of what we are trying to build. Right. So now, if we go back to our data set over here, sorry, if we go back to our, oh, you can also save, once you're done with the dashboards, you can save those dashboards from here. And now moving on to Data Refinery, you can click on this project part here again. And in Add to Project, click on Add to Project on the top. And over here, you can see Data Refinery Flow. So you can select Data Refinery Flow. Okay, now over here again, we're going to select our data set that we have. And we're going to select customer churn, and we're going to add it. Okay. So now this is the data that we have, and wait, it is still reading and processing. So I will also show you the profile tab that we created earlier. It must be done now. Just give it a minute to read through. Okay, so now that we're done with this, it's done reading. You can click on Profile. And over here, you can notice that even though the numerical columns are identified to be as the type varchar or string, the profiler is smart enough to recognize these to be numerical columns and convert them implicitly and compute the mean and standard deviation. So now you can notice that in the churn, let me show you churn. Mm, give me a minute. Okay. So now you can see that in the churn, parameters don't, so it doesn't provide a balanced distribution of the churn and no churn observation. And this might mean that you should adopt cross-validation strategies during the model building and evaluation phase. Uh, so that's about that. And now when we're talking about data refinery, we're going to refine our data. I'll show you how you can do it in just a few steps instead of spending a lot of time in data refinery. If I go back to the data, now if you have noticed earlier, before we came here, it was all strings, but now it has changed these to integer, and this is also integer. Over here we have integer as well. So it has automatically changed the fields to integer from all of them to string, from all of them being strings to it has now identified the fields. Now to transform the data, you can click on operations here, and you can select the fields that you would like. whatever operation you would like to do, you can actually select from here. If you want to remove certain things, or so you can select a column that you want to remove. Now in our case, for this thing, we want to remove the column phone number. Now you can either remove it from here, or you can actually click on here. Wait, let me show you this part as well. Yeah. So over here, if I hover over phone number, you will find the three dots. If I click on this, you can either remove the whole column, you can either remove duplicates, empty rows, and you can sort it, and you can do different things that you prefer or you want to do. Now for this purpose, I'm just going to demo purpose, I'm just going to remove this column. Okay, so now that we're done with this, you can click on, you can select, okay, yeah. So let me show you, you can change the formatting of these columns as well, which is changing the type. And so now over here, you can convert the column type, and you can select the column and then convert the column, right? So if okay, so total day minutes, and it's decimal. In case you want to change it to integer, you can do that as well. Okay, I'm leaving it as it is. Decimal is right. All right. So now, once we're done with that, so now we're going to save this and run the, so over here you can see the steps that will be performed during the data refinery. So once we click on the save button over here on top, if you click on save, this is going to save the steps, and you can then in the drop down over here, you can also save and create a job. So let's go ahead and click on that. So if we do save and create a job, okay, over here, I'm just going to call it customer churn. Just call it something that will make it easier to recognize. And in the configure, so now over here, notice that the input that we're feeding it is the CSV of customer churn, and the output we are getting has has this shaped attached to it at the end. So it's going to convert the output from it's going to just rename it to CSV underscore shaped, so that we know that this is the data that we defined. Well, and I'm going to leave this as it is and click on next. Nothing to schedule, so that's fine. Nothing for now, and we can just review and create it. So over here you can see the associated data set that we have. It has 2 steps to perform, and the output is going to be called customer churn kaggle CSV shaped, the configuration and notifications whenever you have. So now we can click on create and run. Okay, so we can click to see the details of the job. So over here you can find the details of the job. If it fails, you can find it here, and right now it's running. So once it's done, you will find it over here. And under the assets tab, Okay, so it's still running right now. Let me refresh it again. Now, Data Refinery basically allows you to perform quick transformation of data without the need for programming. And it's in no means a replacement for Jupyter Notebook, but it can really allow you to quickly change your data, get an overview of it, create a dashboard, understand the data visually, because visualization can help understand the data really fast. So this is what happens with data refinery and the dashboards. You can understand your data and then go ahead and play around with your data. And if you have, so you can also use Jupyter Notebooks on IBM Cloud account. That's perfectly fine. But with data refinery, it's just a lot faster and easier to understand your data. Now, if I click on the customer churn, the CSV shape that we just refined right now, all right. So in this, you can see the phone number column that we deleted is no longer here. So phone number has been deleted and it's been completed. And I think that's it from my side. And as data scientists or people working in the field, you're probably spending a big amount of your time refining and wrangling data before you can use it for further analytics and machine learning. And having visualizations is a smart and effective way or to help you accelerate this preparation process. And by providing you with a quick overview of your data and pointing out the data quality issues that Hashim has mentioned earlier, and having different views into your data will help you quickly understand the data distribution and the formats and help you detect duplicates, potential outliers. And with these, with these insights, you will be able to define the data cleansing steps faster. Now, with the Watson Studio and Data Refinery, it allows you to perform both the data wrangling and visualization step in the same interface. You don't have to switch between different tools. So I think that's a really big point. And that's it from my side. I'd like to hand it over to Hashim to conclude the session. Hashim?
If you're speaking.
Hashim, you're on mute.
Like he has some issues coming off mute. Hashim, do you want to try refreshing?
All right, so he's just going to refresh. In the meantime, you can always fill up the survey and let us know about your feedback. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us through our emails and we'll be more than happy to help you out. I will be sharing the survey link, and you can also reach out to us. I
Hi
think
guys,
Hashim
can you
is
hear
back.
me?
Okay. Yes, Hashim, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, awesome. So thank you, Anam, for the great hands-on session on Watson Studio and how you can use it to cleanse your data and to gather insights from it. Before we conclude, I want to keep this survey link on the screen for a while. And everyone, Anam will also be sharing this link on the chat. So please do fill out the survey. Your feedback is really important in helping us improve and knowing what we can do even better next time. So do fill out the survey and let us know what you think. So In summary, what we covered in today's webinar was we started off with an introduction to artificial intelligence and then moved on to data science and data science methodology, where we covered the 5 steps in the data science pipeline: problem to approach, requirements to collection, understanding to preparation, modeling to evaluation, and deployment to feedback. And we went in details in all of these 5 steps to determine what goes into it and how we collect data, how we refine it, how we develop our models, and how we use the feedback that we get in order to build even better models. And then we covered some of the problems that we get from the problems that we commonly face while with the data that we have. Some of the problems include getting the data, making sure it's complete and its quality is good, feature engineering, and data pre-processing. And finally, the session was concluded with Anam and her hands-on tutorial on how you can use Watson Studio to gather insights from data. So I hope you all enjoyed the session and learned something new out of it. I hope you guys were able to follow along with the hands-on. If you aren't, the session is being recorded and everything will be shared later on, so you can go through it at your own time. Please do remember to fill the survey, and these are a couple of other resources that you can go through in order to learn even more about data science. We have at the IBM developer website over here, we have the meetup link, which has the details of all our upcoming events and some other resources and learnings that you can take in order to further deep dive into data science. So thank you all for attending today's session. This is my and Anam's email. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Thank you all very much. We hope you enjoyed the session, and we hope to see you soon in our next session. Thank you. Bye-bye.